Welcome back to Edgework on the Hammer Betting Network, a daily live NHL show Monday through Friday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. You can find us on YouTube live on the Edgework YouTube channel. You can find us on Twitter at Edgework Show. And if you miss it or you want to listen to it back later, you can find us on all podcasting platforms as Edgework. And Russ and I were talking about it before we came on the show here. If you want to track the picks given out on this show, if you miss them or if you can't quite catch them in real time, you can find them all on the BetStamp app. You will get notified if you follow the account there, the Edgework BetStamp account in the Find Bettors section. And to this point right now, so Money, I don't even know if you knew this, we are up 29.5 units on the season, a 6.7% ROI. And the Edgework crew yesterday had themselves a pretty good day, picking up even the Philly plus 1.5 there. I think they had just I don't know if they had the money line in that game, but yeah, pretty good day yesterday, getting this account to 29.5. So make sure to go give the Edgework account a follow on BetStamp if you want to follow along with the picks in real time. Doing pretty well so far this season, so that's good impressive stuff. One thing I want to talk about to get started here before we get into some of the picks and the games that are on today is on the Tuesday show, we talked about how interesting the Western Conference playoff situation is kind of shaping out to be. You've got teams in there that are kind of, I mean, even this morning when I was looking at the LA Kings, the Seattle Kraken, LA is now tied with Vegas and Dallas in points. Seattle is 4 points back of LA there, but even looking across, like you're crossing over divisions there, even in the Central, like they're 4 points up on Minnesota. And you kind of look at LA and Seattle, you probably wouldn't have expected them to be in those types of positions coming into it. And now you're looking at teams like Calgary and Edmonton sitting on the outside in those wildcard spots. Basically, I mean, those are two teams. They're basically praying that they get in. Otherwise, they're going to have some serious inward looking to do in the offseason here. Mm-hmm. But there's also a team like Colorado, who's currently sitting on the outside, who's not even in that wild card spot yet. So we talked about the playoff picture on Tuesday. I'm more curious in specific to Colorado here. They get Nathan MacKinnon back. They're starting to get a little bit more healthy. You still have a guy like Cale Makar who could potentially win the Norris every single year. This Colorado team, it's basically expected that they're going to make the playoffs, but Russ, is this a team still that we have to kind of respect and appreciate as a team that actually, once they do get to that level where they're in a playoff spot, they could actually go on and win the Stanley Cup again? Or are they a lot farther off than they were last season?
Yeah, they're starting to resemble the Colorado Avs, that won the Stanley Cup last year and that went on that insane run. Looking back about a week ago, I would have said this is go time. They get a couple of the guys back, a couple of frontline guys back. It's time to stack up a few wins and to move up in the standings, but that really just did not happen. They've got losses to the Canucks in there. They've got losses to the Coyotes in there. A couple of just unbelievably bad losses. Now, I still think they have room to improve. They've got Bowen Bryan needs to come back on defense, and then they've still got Landeskog out so that, once they get those two guys back, they'll have their entire team minus Kadri from last year. And, then I think they should start playing a lot better and start winning some of these games. But, I have been, I probably up until the last few weeks, I've been kept on saying, this team's going to come around. This team's going to come around. Don't worry about them. Don't worry about them. But the last few days or so have gotten me worried. Also, losing to that Panthers team in that 5-4 game, their last game
Mhm.
was a little bit unsettling. So, I mean, I'm still a little bit on the optimistic side, but I think it is start time to kind of be on the hot seat to kind of worry if you are an Avs fan. They've got an easy game tonight, and then they got a really, they got the Ottawa Senators on Saturday. So pick up those two games right there, get those points, and then just start rolling and stacking up wins. And then, this is a whole different conversation next Thursday when we chat about this. So
Yeah.
right now, I'm not completely worried yet, but I would have thought they would have started to turn around the past few games, and I haven't seen it yet. So I'm kind of 50-50 on that one. I'm not rushing to the window to bet any Colorado futures, as the Vegas market is still very down on them, or very up on them. They assume that they're going to be the team from last year, and their futures are very, very low. So there's no reason to rush to back a team like this yet. But no, I'm about 50-50. That's where I stand. They could turn it around here soon, or we could have this conversation next week and say, man, they dropped a game to the Senators. They dropped a game to the Red Wings. So we'll see. But they do have a fairly easy, favorable schedule coming up. So this is really the make or break it time for the Avs, I think.
Yeah, I think like most things with me, my answer starts with it depends, right? So I'm not worried about them making the playoffs. I think that they'll make the playoffs. I think that we need to respect their pedigree. Their their roster, even now, as they're slowly getting guys back, is good enough to make the playoffs. Now, are they good enough to make a run? Well, they don't have a second line center. With all due respect to JT Comfer, right? So I think that the loss of Kadri on that second line was huge. So now, if you're in a situation where you're expected to make a run without that piece in the lineup, I think it's going to be very difficult. If they go out and get someone like Jonathan Tays, yeah, that changes the whole calculus on this team. So I think that as it stands right now, um, I don't know if they have it in them to make another long run through the Western Conference into the Stanley Cup final. But if they are able to replace what they lost in Kadri, even not fully replace, but like have a guy that can slot in the second line so that Comfort can go back to where he should be as a very good third line center, then I'd be more inclined to think that Colorado can go a lot deeper.
Yeah,
Sure.
fair enough.
And
It is interesting talking about them, and even like a lot of these Western Conference teams, right? It's with a lot of them, it's well, it depends. It's so money's favorite saying there. It depends because it's
Yeah.
well, if even like when you look at Edmonton, it's like, well, could they get in the playoffs? Could they go for a run? Well, it depends. Are McDavid and Draisaitl going to continue to play 30 minutes a night? Are they going to be able to hold up over the course of the season? Because if they do, then Edmonton probably is going to be capable of hanging on because those
Mhm.
guys out there for 50% of your game every single night, you're going to have some type of opportunity. But if they can't hold on, then that team outside of them is not as great. Calgary, it depends. Are they going to be able to find some goaltending here for a consistent period of time? If not, then they might fall out of that playoff spot. Like it is very, very it depends with a lot of these teams in the Western Conference. It's even like last night I'm watching Toronto play against Nashville. UC Saros is out of his mind. Like this guy, the way that this guy is playing over the last stretch, they're getting goaltending. They're finding some goal scoring out of some of the guys with Granlund and Duchesne and Forsberg, where they didn't really have it early on in the season. And now they start to get that going. Well, can Saros keep it up and potentially hold them along, maybe push them into a playoff spot? They're only 2 points out right now. Like some of these teams and the spots that they're in are really weird. And as so many says, it's a good saying there, but it depends. Like it
Yeah.
depends on how it goes.
I think one other point that needs to be noted is the Oilers and the Flames have 3 or 4 more games than the Avs right now. And once the
Right.
Avalanche catch up in games, and Avs have all these games at hand. So like so many said, I don't think they'll have any issue getting to the playoffs. And especially once they catch up, in these games played, they'll probably be up in the playoffs rankings. So I don't think that's an issue at all. I think like so many said, the bigger issue is can they get past the first round? Can they get past, the second round and make a run like they did last year?
Yeah, and Jay Stone 9 here saying playing Blackhawks tonight, smash spots. Yeah, fair enough. But just want to remind everybody before we get to tonight's games and get to the picks, if you want to comment in real time, there are some questions here, thoughts on the games tonight. If you want to do that, make sure to go over to the Edgework YouTube channel where you can interact in real time. We won't see them on Twitter in real time, unfortunately, so go over to the YouTube, subscribe there, like this stream, and you can turn on notifications by clicking that bell so you get notified every time we go live, Monday through Friday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. But as well, if you want to engage in the chat, as we encourage people to do, go over to the YouTube channel. We will see them in real time there. So, you know what, we don't have to necessarily go in order. I see the question pop up here right now, so we can get to that. Don Schultz saying, thoughts on Calgary, St. Louis, same teams played on Tuesday, same building, weird back-to-back here. And this is one of those ones I was looking at. It is a weird spot. Like, St. Louis here right now, they are 2 points out of a playoff spot, and despite losing O'Reilly and Tarasenko, like, they have won a good amount of their last few games with those guys out. I have a theory. It's not statistically proven, but I think that there's a short spurt of games for every team if you lose a star or your bigger players where like immediately after those guys go out, there's like a boost to the rest of the guys, whether or not that lasts, but I think it's just a short spurt where like you see that and they come out flying after. And then you're looking at this where Calgary is holding on to the first wild card spot. They have played one less game than Edmonton, and they are tied with them in points, but they do have more games played than a bunch of the teams behind them. And this team has lost their last two games, 4-3 to the Blues, and before that, 4-3 to the Hawks. Now, they did just play St. Louis and lose that game. Russ, is there anything that you're kind of looking at in this one? Is there a side you lean towards for this Calgary-St. Louis game tonight?
When you're looking at the numbers, I'd make this minus 155 Calgary, so it's fairly right on for me. And in all honesty, I probably won't have a play here, but I do think this is a little bit more of an interesting game on the slate just because you have a team in the Blues who's completely streaky. I honestly don't know what team is going to show up, what given night. They're terrible on defense, absolutely awful on defense. And Bennington has just been awful as well. Every once in a while he can stand on his head and have a 1 or 2 goal game. But generally speaking, he's been awful this year, 70th in goals saved above expectation. I mean, that's difficult to get down that low. And then on the other side, I've been, as you know, as anybody knows that follows this show, I've been fairly low on the Flames this year. But it seems like they are starting to figure it out, and they're starting to drive play. In their last 10 games, they're third in expected goals for. So it seems like they're starting to figure it out. It just seems like certain things are not going the way they're hitting posts, they're hitting crossbars, stuff like that, where some of these games the Flames should be winning and they end up going to overtime and actually losing in overtime on some of these games where they've graded out actually pretty well. So generally speaking, I would lean towards the Flames here. Now it's tough to lay minus 160 on a team like this going into such an uncertain environment against a Blues team who you don't know who's going to show up. So there won't be any play for me at all here. Like I said, I've got about minus 155 on the Flames, so it's right aligned with the market price. But gun to my head, I think Flames money line or Flames in regulation probably ends up getting there just with the way that the Blues have been playing lately. But this will be a pass for me.
So the Flames on, I guess, Tuesday, they closed minus 160-ish in St. Louis. Now we're looking at them. They're a little bit lower. So I think that the Flames are a little bit short here. But like Russ mentioned, it's not something that I'm going to be rushing to bet. The Flames, they have started playing better. They've been unlucky in a couple of the results here, but for the most part, I do like the way that the team is headed. Now, the problem, as has been the whole season, is their goaltending. Markstrom is not where he needs to be for this team to generate consistent results. So I guess what I'm saying is that I think it's a fair line. Calgary, you could make a case they're a little bit short. But if the Blues go back with Binnington, I think that the over might be a look here. Um, and if St. Louis goes with Grice, which is not entirely impossible at this point, I think that that actually upgrades the Blues a bit. So I would lay off right now. I do like the over a bit, but I'd only like the over if once Bennington is confirmed in the game.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it sounds like we're pretty much on the same page there. And I'm
Yeah.
even seeing like a long, an expensive 5.5. Like that seems crazy to put a 5.5 out there on this St. Louis Blues team. Just isn't it's nuts to me. So if it drifts down to 5.5 minus 120, then I probably would have a play there.
Yeah, yeah, and like with those like 5.5 totals, like those are reserved these days
Yeah,
in the NHL for elite goaltending and
yeah.
elite defensive teams. Now, we don't have a lot of elite defensive teams anymore in this league, but we do have a few elite goaltenders that do warrant a 5.5. But
This is
neither,
neither of them.
but none of these goaltenders are there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
Uh,
interesting.
fair enough. Yeah, I mean, when you're looking at, so how quickly would you have to get to the window to get the price that you'd be looking for if Bennington is a net on the over in this game? Like, where do you kind of foresee that line going to if he does go in, if he is announced in net for the St. Louis Blues tonight?
That's a
Well,
question for so money.
yeah, well, one thing is Bennington still garners some respect in the marketplace. I think that it's not the way the lines move with the Blues games. It's not a certainty in the market that Grice is in fact an upgrade. So I think that internally, our numbers have Bennington as very poor, but he does show spurts where he can have these great games, and I think that a lot of times that the market still has that in mind. So I don't think there's a rush in like and as would be the case in like other situations, but eventually the market does move towards the over.
All right, let's talk about a game where there is a 5.5 on the board here. Minnesota Wild, New York Islanders right now. If you're looking at this one, minus 112 Minnesota, plus 106 for the Islanders. There's a rogue plus 106 on the over 5.5. If you are
Wow.
in New Jersey right now, that one is available
Get
for
it.
you.
Go get it.
Yeah, but
Quickly.
we are seeing this one with 5.5, 6 in a lot of different places, very widely available at that. And this Minnesota team, they are third in the Central right now, but they are 5 points back of Winnipeg, only 1 point up on Calgary and Edmonton. They did deal with some issues during the period of time where Fleury was dealing with some personal stuff. You saw a fluctuation in their goaltending and how much they were allowing against. And then, but that team outside of that has kind of been a little rocky so far throughout the season, just in terms of you not really knowing what you're going to get out of them. They were a very strong, solid team last year who could put up points, score a lot of goals, and they were pretty good defensively, keeping things out of the net. And then this year, it's been a fluctuation with them. And then you're going up against an Islanders team that just plays the dead, slow, boring kind of game of hockey where no one really wants to turn that one on if it is on their TVs. They are 1 point out of a playoff spot though right now, which I think people kind of wouldn't really have expected that. They're 1 point behind Pitt. They are 4-4-2 in their last 10. They are on a 3-game losing streak, but currently they're up 5 points on the Buffalo Sabres. So, Money, is there anything you're looking at in this game, or what? How do you make this one out?
Well, with the Wild, I think that over the course of the last few weeks, they've actually gotten a lot better defensively. I think they've from where they were in the start of the season, they are starting to limit their chances, and I think what Dean Evison has tried to instill in that team from early on in the season, I think that it's it's coming to fruition in that respect. Now, um, the problem with with a lot of these teams I find is that they're not getting consistent goaltending. When Fleury is in net this year, he's just not very good. and I think that that there is a significant upgrade from Fleury to Gustafson. So I think we need to wait until that confirmation. I suspect that Fleury is going to start, um, which is not great news if you want to bet on the Wild. Um, and and I joke about that 5.5 number, but the fact is that Minnesota as a team itself, when they want to play the way that Everson wants them to play, they do warrant a 5.5, but not with Fleury in goal. On the other side, the Islanders, as much as they want to play slow, low event hockey, they're just not a very good defensive team. But they have the goaltender that can mask all of those deficiencies. So anytime you're playing Sorokin, it is tough to get on the over. But in this case, if with the Wild getting healthy, with the Islanders giving up what they give up, and if Fleury is in goal, I do like that over if it's 5.5, especially that plus money 5.5 that you mentioned. That would be something that I would absolutely run towards.
Mm-hmm.
What price would you play this to at the over 5.5? Because the plus 106, I don't think we'll lock that in. That's not widely available, but if you do have access to that, that would definitely be a look for other people. But for you personally, what would your kind of comfort level be on that 5.5?
If Flurry is in net, I would go up to minus 110. If he's not in net, if it's Gustafson against Sorokin, um, then I'm less inclined to get involved in that game at all.
Okay, fair enough.
Yep, I'm fairly similar. This is going to be very dependent on the goalie in net for the Wild. Yeah, just to piggyback off of a couple things that so many said. This Minnesota team is really weird. And if you looked at, like, if I went through all of my plays, my personal plays this year, I would argue, and I would probably bet that Minnesota is probably the least, the least profitable team that I've bet on this year. I just cannot figure this team out for whatever reason. I bet against him when Marc-Andre Fleury's in goal, and somehow he comes back to bite me in the butt, and then Gustafson's in goal, and I lay off, and they end up losing. So no, this is an interesting spot for me. My numbers actually have the Islanders as a slight favorite here. So at plus money, I will probably be making a play on the Islanders. This is a little bit dependent on Kyle Palmieri. Now, Kyle Palmieri for the Islanders has been coming back, or supposed to be coming back, for like the last 5 games. So it's just like a wait and see thing. But that's a significant edge in my numbers with him as opposed to without him. And just to kind of dig under the hood on some of these things. The Islanders have been playing pretty well the last 10 games, 10th in expected goals for and 7th in expected goals against. Their defense is starting to come around. And obviously, we don't have to talk much about Ilya Sorokin. He's just been awesome this year, as so many said. He's second in goals saved above expectation. So we've had the Islanders a couple times the last couple weeks, and he's cashed for us. And I'm not looking to jump off that train yet, especially at home. So if we do end up getting Marc-Andre Fleury confirmed in net, this will definitely be a play for me at plus money and at home. This Minnesota team is just basically an extremely defensive team. They would like to slow the game down, just like the Islanders will tonight, except one team has an exceptional goalie and one does not. So that's the big enough edge for me, and especially at a plus money, this will probably end up being a play on the Islanders tonight.
So would you have to wait for this one to hear that news about who's playing, and or would this be play it anyways?
Well, I'm gonna probably wait, but what do you think the chances are that we get MAF here? So money has any? I'm just trying to look at.
Yeah, I'm pretty. I've got it pretty probable that that's the way that the Wild are gonna go.
That's what I would think. Let's go ahead and lock it in, especially because we probably some of those plus money numbers will probably disappear once he gets confirmed.
Okay.
So I have no issues going with the hot goalie and the home team here. They've been playing a lot better recently, and as anybody knows that watches this show, I have no problem going against the Wild this year.
All right, we'll lock that one in on the account. And again, if you want to follow it in real time or you want to see how the picks are doing through the course of the season, you can go over to the BetStamp app, click on the Find Better section. You can find us there as Edgework. So another game here tonight we'll look at is between Dallas and the New York Rangers. This is another game with some 5.5s on the board here. So money. So we're finding them popping up all over the place right now. Dallas is first in the Central. They are tied with Vegas and LA, as I had mentioned earlier, in points. They're on a 2-game win streak, 7-3 in their last 10. And it's actually kind of funny. I found this the other day, but or I guess last night, as the coaches were announced for the All-Star game, some of the coaches were announced. You've got Rod Brindamore, Pete DeBoer, Jim Montgomery, and who is the other coach that was announced? It was one of the Bruce Cassidy.
Yeah, Bruce Cassidy.
So you've got Bruce Cassidy, who is the former coach of the Boston Bruins, now with Vegas, Pete DeBoer, who was the former coach of the Vegas, who's now with Dallas, and Jim Montgomery, who was with Dallas, now with Boston. Just the coach shuffle moving all around there, and everyone grabbing new teams and suddenly becoming all-stars and Jack Adams candidates just because they're in a new spot. But Dallas right now plus 115 against the Rangers on the road. Rangers minus 120. They are 2 points back of New Jersey, sitting third in the Metro right now. Rusk, how do you kind of look at this game here tonight? With it sitting at this total of 5.5 and the Rangers being favored in this one, is that about right for you?
I actually, like So Money and I were talking about, or like So Money was saying earlier, the 5.5 should be reserved for 2 elite goalies, and this is exactly what he was talking about. This is definitely a warranted 5.5. And although my numbers do show a little bit of value on the over, that's not the angle that I'm going to take. I actually like the Dallas Stars. It's plus money road underdogs on this game. I have them as a favorite, so that will end up probably being a play for me. I don't expect to see any shenanigans in the goalie. Obviously, if we got Wedgwood or something crazy in there for Dallas, I would just burn my ticket. But no, I mean, if we get Ottinger in there against Igor, this is a great matchup for me. And if you followed my plays all year, I've been kind of anti-Rangers, and I've been on and off the Stars a little bit. Probably should have been on them a little bit more lately, but they've been playing well. They've been driving play well. 6 in expected goals for in their last 10 games. Their defense is playing well. And the Rangers are just kind of strange. They're getting wins, and Igor's playing awesome, but their defense is not playing very well, and they're not driving play very well. 24th in expected goals for in their last 10 games. So basically what's happening is they're giving up decent chances. They're not scoring the goals, and Igor is just bailing them out of every single game. So you have and then on the Rangers side, they have no Chris Kreider tonight. So, this is, more or less a wash. Even maybe the better team 5-on-5 is Dallas, and then you pretty much wash the goalies. I think both goalies are pretty equal, top 5, top 3 in the league. And then you give me plus money, then, I'll easily take plus 115 or plus 10 on Dallas all day. So, yeah, especially when I've got Dallas almost minus 120, minus 125. So I think they should be the slight favorite. So, yes, this will be a play for me on the Stars. I'm looking at anywhere from plus 110 to plus 115 will be a go for me tonight.
Yeah. All right. So money on the same page there.
Yeah, I'll be surprised if he is.
Yeah, we love our Dallas Stars around these parts.
I do.
I agree with everything. And with that 5.5, yes, Igor and Ottinger, they do warrant the 5.5s. But Dallas is actually playing some high event hockey lately, and the Rangers have shown struggles defensively at times this year. And as mentioned, Igor comes in and bails them out. So this 5.5 is a true 5.5 that's reflective. That's reflected on the goalie pedigree itself. So both I don't think neither team, the way that they're playing these days, warrants a 5.5, but obviously the goalies do. Now, I will be on Dallas. I think that we should lock them in. One thing to note too is that you mentioned the Zach. earlier you mentioned the theory team stepping up when like a star player is out. That is
Oh
a
yeah.
real thing. The market does tend to overreact to these things a lot. Now, with all due respect to Chris Kreider, he's not in that category, so that's not
Yeah.
something that
Mhm.
I would I would take I would take into account like I would with obviously a guy like Austin Matthews. So um,
Mhm.
I'm not worried about the market reaction to Chris Kreider. So I will be on the Dallas Stars here as well.
But similarly, like with the Rupe Heinz, him
Correct. Yeah.
being out, maybe it seems to me like the market has moved a little bit too much on that news. Just exactly like so many was saying, this should maybe be closer to minus 110 both ways, and moving that news on that injury give you plus money. That's good value there.
Fair enough. Yeah, with that star player going out thing, it's just kind of interesting because you watch it, and every time you turn on the TV after, it's like the people on. I mean, so many were watching Canadian television. They're on the broadcast after being like, "How are they doing it with this guy out?" And it's like, well, every time this happens now, this is the same conversation. So like, there's something going on here, obviously.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and obviously like the rest of the team matters, right? If like
Mhm.
If Austin Matthews was playing on the Coyotes and you took him out, then yeah,
yeah,
that's going to be a bigger deal than
Sure,
you out of the Leafs.
sure.
yeah. Be the same in Edmonton if
Yeah,
one of McDavid or Draisaitl or both of them go out. Like that's a completely different team that you're looking at there, essentially. One other game that I wanted to talk about tonight, and if anybody in the chat has any questions or any games that they were looking at, please feel free to let us know. But one that I'm looking at here, one of the reasons I have some type of interest in this is because my own personal interest in not having the Montreal Canadiens have a very high draft selection. And that's because Alex Moretto, who's on the Tuesday show there, sends screenshots of the NHL mock simulator every day now where it continues to come up with Habs #1 and Habs #2 with Florida's pick, and they're drafting Bedard and Fantilli over and over again. So don't want to see that happen. But Florida right now against Vegas, they're sitting at plus 102. It did move from about half an hour ago where it was at plus 110. Vegas currently sitting at minus 107 or minus 110, more widely available there in this game. But so money, why is it that Florida is kind of moving in this direction on the road against Vegas, getting closer and closer to the minus side, the favorite side in this one?
yeah. So when we were coming on, I saw Florida taking a bunch of money there. It wasn't
Yeah.
me. The Someone moved the market on Florida. I kind of know who I think I know who it was, but um, here in this I talked about this last week or like the last time I was on, and that Florida does there's a belief out there that Florida just needs some time to get it together with all the changes they made and like the change in philosophy behind the bench, getting to be a more defensive team. I think that there's still this prevailing belief that that's going to happen. I I'm not too sure about that, right? I think that this core was accustomed to play a certain way, um, and I don't necessarily think in today's NHL that that's a bad way to play. But for whatever reason, they decided after one random series against Tampa Bay that that they needed to blow this whole thing up. So those kind of things are tough to cover from. Now, the reason why the line has moved that way, if you look at more of like a short term micro perspective, is that Bobrovsky has been playing. They that's pretty much the simple answer. He's been trending well the last few games. His overall season numbers are still not great, but um, he's he's trending better. So there's this belief that the market hasn't caught up to him yet, which is why you're seeing the Panthers as a dog like that. Well, they were on the Vegas side. They've been a little bit streaky the last, or sorry, I say streaky. They've been inconsistent the last little bit here. So even through their wins against Colorado, which was their probably in the last couple of weeks their only strong game. That Nash in overtime wasn't great. Even Pittsburgh, I think that they got that early lead against Casey DeSmith, which even the Canucks showed you can get an early lead on Casey DeSmith. So that's not saying much. So I think that that's the way that we're kind of headed here. It's more of like a short term reaction where Bobrovsky and Florida, the sentiment in the short term is a little high, whereas Vegas, there's an inconsistency there that the market doesn't appreciate that much right now.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much completely nailed it. I think that the last few games, the Florida Panthers have been trending a lot better, driving play on the offense a lot better, and playing actually a lot better defense. And Bobrovsky has been, a lot better than the beginning of the season. I was very surprised by this line move, though, with the Knights getting all of these guys back from injury, Marchessault and Jack Eichel and stuff, getting all the way healthy. I did not expect this line to move. And I have minus 110 both ways, so there's really not an edge for me on the side. But with the Knights getting all of those players back on the front line and the Florida Panthers being the Florida Panthers, I'm easily looking at my numbers support the over here. So I could easily see a 3-3 game and us getting to 7 goals. Now that would be it's very dependent on Bobrovsky in goal. And I think he should be in goal. We won't have anything for a long time with it being a late game. But if we did for some reason see Spencer Knight, this would be a no play for me. I'd probably be right around 6.5. But with Bobrovsky in goal, and once we get that confirmed, I will probably be on the over 6.5 here, which is surprising to me, considering it seems like the Knights have been a lot more defensive team lately with Cassidy as their coach and just kind of playing a slower, low event game. But they have been driving play lately. They're 5th in expected goals for in their last 10 games, and the Panthers are 4th in expected goals for. So these teams are playing fairly similar games. Their offense is fairly good, and their defense is kind of middle of the road. And Logan Thompson has not been anything special for the Knights either to consider staying off of this bet. So this will be a play for me on the over it once we do get Bobrovsky confirmed in goal, and I don't expect to see the line change much at all. I think you can go ahead and wait once it gets confirmed. I would pull the trigger up to minus 110. I think is just fine on the over.
All right.
We will see Bob in goal here.
Okay, we can lock it in then.
All right, we will do that. And again, recommend line shopping here because if you are looking around, if you are in the state of New Jersey, which is what we set these to for the sake of having widely available lines, you can find plus 100 on the over 6.5 there. But we'll lock it in on the BetStamp app where you can find it as Edgework in the Find Better section. We did just touch on the Panthers there, but Connor Hartle asking, looking at some pups tonight, Kraken plus 200, Sabres plus 110. We did just discuss the Panthers, so we'll start with the Kraken here, and then we'll get to the Sabres game. But Russ, are there any thoughts on the Kraken in this one?
Yeah, I mean, I've loved they've been just on a tear. We've played on the Kraken a couple times in this new year and won both of them. Obviously, they haven't lost in 2023, and they're just scoring at an insane pace. It's making my my Dave Hackstall bet look better and better. I think it's still a long shot, but I like it. I like that the number's dropping. But no, I think in all honesty, I think this number's a little bit too long for Boston. I have closer to 200 as a fair market price, so I would lean to taking the plus 196 or plus 200 on Seattle. It's going to be really tough to get there if Martin Jones starts in goal for me, for that to be a play for me. But that is the way I would lean. Now, if for some reason they go back to Grubauer, for some reason I do have a small edge. I don't know if my priors are going back far enough or they just skipped over last season or whatever, but I do have a small uptick from Grubauer to Jones. Both of them are terrible. But yeah, I think if you're looking to play dogs, tonight, plus 200 is a pretty good look. And it probably won't make my card, But yeah, I think this Boston team's just a little bit too long at minus 220 or 230. That's crazy.
I've read this thing earlier where Boston's on pace for like 65 wins and like 5,000 points this year or
Yeah,
something.
to break both records. Yeah, to break the points record, they're on pace for.
Yeah, and like that's not gonna happen, right? So like at some point, there's gonna be um some games here that Boston's gonna lose. I'm not
Sure.
betting against Seattle right now.
Hmm.
This Seattle streak is gonna end against some garbage team. It's probably gonna end in like in like Chicago after they play Boston or something, right? So
Right.
um I'm not betting against Seattle right now. I think that that plus 200, I think, yeah, I'm more there than I am anywhere close to a laying on Boston at this point.
Yep. Same. Completely same.
All right, and then the other game that they asked about here was the Sabres Winnipeg game. Connor's saying that they're on the Sabres tonight. What are your thoughts on that?
It depends uh, who's in net for Winnipeg. I think
Oh
that
yeah.
it's not it's unless if it was confirmed in the last couple of minutes, which I don't see, but it's not certain that a Hellebuck is going to get the starting goal. If it is who's their backup there? Riddick. If it is Riddick, I can see value on Buffalo, and plus looks like Luukkonen should be starting there, which is um in the long term it's an upgrade. He hasn't been playing that well in the short term, but if it's Luukkonen against Riddick, I think that Buffalo holds value there.
Yep. I completely agree.
All right. And then last thing kind of wanted to ask you guys about, just curious, and I feel like other people are interested in this as well. There's a question here from Max X saying, what's your process like when placing bets? Is it simply whatever your model tells you there's value to bet, or is there more to it? Russ, we can start with you. Don't have to get too deep into it, but if you would care to touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, I think this is a good question because I think some of the people on the show their styles are drastically different, and especially
Mhm.
so Money and I's styles are drastically different. I have not been doing this for an extremely long time. So traditionally, what I do is I do kind of a night before run of the numbers. I kind of highlight some of the things that I like. And then I do the morning of, I run the lineup changes, and then I run some of my numbers, and then I further highlight and further whittle down some of the plays that I like. Now, traditionally, I try and wait for goalie confirmations. I know this is pretty much against what a lot of people do, what Rob Pizzola does, what So Many does. They try and get ahead of the number. But I have found, just as far as my style and my handicapping goes, that you can get burned a lot more than you can gain by jumping the line and trying to guess goalie confirmations. And I'm just not as good as So Money and some of these guys. So I'll message them and say, hey, what do you think about this guy starting? What do you think about this guy starting? What are the chances? Because I have an edge. I like this play. Should I take it now? Will it move? And so I have no problem reaching out to some of these guys and asking. But traditionally for me, if I see something strong in the morning, if overnight, I'll play that overnight, but very sparingly. And then in the morning, if I see something really strong and I'm confident that the goalies will start, I'll play that more. But I don't. I don't get into the big bets and the filling of all of my orders until 1 or 2 in the afternoon. Once everything is confirmed and given that the number is still in line, then I will start laying down, some bigger bets and bigger plays like that. So I guess to kind of summarize his question is it's kind of throughout the day, and then I wait until everything is confirmed before I unload the big bucks.
I think we can do a whole show on process.
Yeah,
I'll
Yeah.
I'm interested in this answer for sure.
Yeah, I'll try my best to kind of summarize it and keep it. I'm a hybrid in the sense that I know a lot of people that I work with are model only. This is a number I get. This is what I'm gonna bet. If it moves too far the other way, I'm gonna come back on the other side because that's what my number says, and that's fine. I do that as well to a certain extent. I have my model number, but the reason I say that I'm a hybrid is that I also um, there's a qualitative factor as well. I fully acknowledge that sometimes my model number is not going to move as quickly as what I see myself. A perfect example of that was the St. Louis Colorado series a couple of years ago, where Colorado swept the Blues. Um, I was very high on the Blues, and I would get value on the Blues every single game that they played Colorado. It was apparent after the first couple of periods in that series that the Blues were completely outmatched. Now, if I'm strictly going on my model number, I'm getting smoked in that series. As that series went on, it was it it just wasn't even close. So I think that it is tricky to add a qualitative aspect to it, especially if you are making your numbers, because you have to be absolutely certain that whatever you're seeing is actually what you're seeing and not what you want to see, right? So I think that I've been watching hockey long enough. I've been consuming kind of what is out there long enough to know that I do have an objective eye for these. I'm not going to let what I want to see influence where my model number is at. Now, when I do get the model number, I will bet it. There are times when I do a lot of trading back and forth. Now, that's more of like a market analysis kind of thing where I will trade my numbers back and forth. It's not something that I recommend for people who are just starting or who are just kind of um, looking at betting their model numbers. So um, I can't go into too much detail because obviously we don't have a lot of time. But I think that's an amazing question, and it's something that obviously I can talk about a lot. But in just a couple of minutes, that's the best I can do right now.
No, fair enough. I appreciate the answers, and I think that it provides some clarity to some people in the chat who might be wondering. And you see different people on the shows each day, and kind of wonder like, what is it that goes into it for them? I always appreciate hearing you guys break down games from your perspectives and the numbers that you have on things, because even though you guys are on the same side of a lot of different things that we talk about, there's oftentimes you guys will come to the same conclusion, but have differing perspectives on and different pathways on how you got there. So it is interesting to hear that. So I appreciate that. But if you guys enjoyed the show today, please make sure to like this stream. Make sure to go and subscribe to the Edgework YouTube channel. You can also set notifications by clicking that bell so you get notified every time we go live on this channel. And as always, if you want to track the picks that we're giving out today, you want to track them in real time, or you know you're going to miss shows going forward, make sure to go over to the BetStamp app. You can find us in the Find Bettors section as Edgework. And if you missed part of the show, you want to hear it back later, or you watched it and you just want to hear it back again, you can go over to any podcasting platform and find us there as Edgework as well. So thank you to everyone who tuned in today. Greatly appreciate everyone who participated in the chat, gave their opinions on games, and asked questions. And we look forward to seeing everyone in the stream tomorrow on the Edgework YouTube channel. Myself, Andy McNeil, Alex B. Smith, and Rob Pizzola. If you are looking for more content, NFL, NHL, or NBA, make sure to go over to thehammer.bet to check it all out there. Thank you to everyone who tuned in here today. Thank you so much. Thank you, Russ, for your insights today, for the bets. Good luck on your bets tonight, and I will see everyone next Thursday or tomorrow here on the show if you're coming back for that. So thank you guys, and see you soon.